Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings. Hey friends, Paul here. Welcome to the Nature Wanderer podcast. Actually out at Chestnut Ridge Park in Orchard Park, New York, exploring some new trails here, and taking some photographs too. And that's what I actually want to talk to you about today, is nature photography. It's something that I have enjoyed doing for many years. I loved taking pictures when I was a kid. I remember my first camera. It was an old film camera. We didn't have digital cameras when I was a kid. We had my first camera, big, bulky, rectangular thing, single lens on the front. You couldn't even zoom in with anything. And I remember the flash bulbs. Now you just take a picture with your phone or with a SLR camera, digital camera, and you have a built-in flash. And the only thing you have to do to keep that flash going is to change the batteries. Now with these old cameras, yeah, you had to put a battery in it, but we had these little bulbs that you had to buy, and you stick it in the slot, give it a twist, and then you take your picture, and then you have to take it out, burn your fingers because it's usually super hot, and then, put it on some non-flammable surface and stick another bulb in and try. Yeah, you were real cautious about your pictures. You wanted to get that perfect picture, all framed, all ready to go before you snapped it, because you had to go and buy bulbs for it, you had to buy the film, and then you had to go and get it developed. And it's like 20, I think you could buy it in the film in 12 frames, or you could do 24. I can't even remember them all, but depending on the length of the actual film. So that's my first camera, and I remember going to the drugstore. That's where they would get the film from you, and you would hand it to them, fill out the form, they'd put it in an envelope, and then they'd call you in a week, and they would come back, and you get to see all your lousy pictures that didn't turn out. Yeah. And if you were on vacation or something, it's like, well, too bad. Yeah, you forgot to clean your lens. Yeah, too bad. You got to go back to wherever you were in order to get those pictures again. You can't check them right away. Yeah, that's my early experience with taking pictures. And if you're much younger than me, you're probably like, what is he talking about with these flashes? And that's the way it was. Then I ended up getting a digital, actually it wasn't even digital. And then I went to an SLR camera and still had film in it, but at least it had an electronic flash. And I had zoom lenses for it, and then I went digital finally, and now I pretty much use my phone for all my pictures. But anyhow, I wanted to talk a little bit about nature photography, because I get asked a lot from a lot of people. It's like, how come my pictures don't look like what I was looking at? And it's like, well, there's a lot to photography to get the perfect pictures. I have taken courses on photography. I have been, taking pictures for many, many years. Do I call myself a photographer? Not really. I'm not professional. I'm an amateur, but I do know a lot about how to get those really good pictures. And I want to share some of those tips with you. Now, this pertains to any pictures you want, but I'm going to center on nature photography because that's what I love to take pictures of. So some of the, I'd be here hours and hours if I was going to explain all of it, but I'm just going to hit on some key points, some key tricks, techniques that'll help you get better pictures when you're out in nature. And the first thing is to think about what photography is. A lot of people don't think about what photography is. Okay, photography is basically painting, but you're painting with light. You're not painting with paint. You're not painting with a pen or a pencil. You're not. This is painting with light. Whether it's a flash from your camera, whether it is sunlight. Right now, I've got. The sun is going down a little bit, and it's shining, it's creating shadows. It's just creating all these beautiful, textures. And that's what gives you better pictures, is when you can actually get these textures and these shadows. It'll give you some distance to your pictures. It'll give you some shading. If you ever have those pictures that you took and it looks like such a bland, dull scene, like it seems like it's all one color, one dimensional. It's like, that's not what I was looking at. It was the most beautiful thing. And that's the reason, is lighting. You didn't have the right lighting. That's one of the biggest problems when people take nature photographs. And I know sometimes you're on vacation and a scene comes up and it's like, oh, it's such a beautiful scene, I want to take a picture of it. And the lighting is just not right. I've had that happen many times where it's like I'm in this beautiful place, but the day was wrong. I should have been there yesterday, but the way my schedule was, I had to be there today. So you can't always depend on the lighting, that nature is going to give you. And that's when you have to use some of the other techniques to get that better picture. But you're basically painting with light. So play with the light. There's different times of day, morning, afternoon. Okay, those are some of the better times to take pictures. They call it the golden hour. If you ever see these beautiful sunrise or sunset pictures or deep shadows and all, that's during the golden hour when things kind of turn yellowish, orangish, this golden color. And I'm not going to tell you what time it is because it depends on where you're living and what time of year it is. But there are calendars. I used to have an iCal that I could download to my calendar, and it would give me the golden hour. It would always tell me when the golden hour was, so I could plan the next day. It's like, oh yeah, the golden hour is coming up. I can actually, go out and get that picture I wanted. I have to do it during this time. So try to, get that. Or one of the worst times to take pictures, noon. Yeah, middle of the day. The lighting is bland. Yeah, it's flat because it's from overhead. You're not getting the shadows. You're not getting the textures. So look at that. And also, maybe your subject, it calls for good lighting. It's going to look different in different lighting. I'm in the woods right now, and one side of the tree looks very kind of bright whitish yellow, and the opposite side of the tree looks kind of black and brown and dark, and that's because one side is lit by the sun, the other side is not. So the color is different because of the way the light hits it. So something may look green to you, yet it's blue, or yellow, because of the lighting. So plan your subjects. If you're trying to get a picture of a certain subject, maybe a waterfall, plan it. Go there the day before, see when the lighting is best, or spend the day there. Wait for that lighting to hit it. Get a picture of it at different times with different lighting. And then you can look later. Nice thing about film cameras, the digital cameras, you can take 1,000 pictures and throw away 999 of them. Keep that one that was perfect. So play with the lighting, get different angles. And that's another thing I want to talk about is angles. Oh yeah, that looks like what I was seeing, but it's kind of boring. It doesn't look exactly like what was in my head, what I was feeling when I saw it. Maybe it's just the angle you took it at. I like to play with angles. Sometimes I will, go around an object and get it from different angles so I get that perfect angle. Sometimes I will lay on the ground and get an angle from underneath. Sometimes I'll try to find a spot safely. I will find a spot that's up a little higher so that I can, get an angle from up above. So constantly playing with angles, trying to get that perfect angle for the shot. So try different angles, it might liven up your picture, your photograph. Another photography trick for good photographs is the rule of thirds. Okay, divide your picture in your mind, in your viewfinder, divide your picture into thirds. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't like to have my subject right in the middle. Sometimes I do, it depends on the subject, but here's this big, beautiful oak tree. I'll put it off to the side a little bit off center, so that it's in the first third or maybe the second third of the picture. It's not dead center. If you're taking a scenic shot, maybe put the horizon down in the lower third of the picture. Maybe the clouds are up in the upper third, and then you have the beautiful sky and skyline in the middle. So you're basically dividing your picture into thirds. If you're showing maybe an animal, have the animal coming into the picture. The animal being the first third coming into the picture. It's kind of welcoming them. If you have it in the later third, it looks like it's leaving. And when people are looking at that picture, when you're looking at that picture, it's almost like, oh yeah, well, the animal is like leaving the picture here. Sorry, I want to get a shot. I've got great lighting today. So yeah, rule of thirds, it's a photography trick to kind of brighten up your pictures. If you look at a lot of amateur pictures, everything, the subject's always in the middle, dead center. Kind of boring. So you want to try that rule of thirds, and you'll find it actually helps your pictures a little bit. Another thing that I see a lot of mistakes, I actually teach photography merit badge to scouts, and a lot of the pictures that I get from the scouts, and it's always the very first one that I try to straighten them out with, and some of them will get it and they'll start to improve this, others will not, and I see it throughout all their pictures. Watch the background. Your mind is concentrating on that scene that you see, that beautiful thing you want a picture of. And you take the picture and you get home and it's like, whoa, what's all that garbage in the background? Now I know nowadays they have all these cameras that you can erase something that shouldn't be in the picture. You can erase people out of it. My wife does it all the time. I prefer just getting whatever it is out of the picture to begin with. If I go to, if I go to Watkins Glen, beautiful place, but good luck getting a picture without people in it. Yeah, people are constantly wandering through and it's like, you just can't get it. I'll sit there for 10, 15 minutes waiting for the opportunity to get that picture without people in it. I'll change my angle, my perspective of it, just to get an angle without people. I'll go early in the morning when there are no people at that place. Okay, like today where I'm at, I actually picked a time of day when I knew people were gonna be headed home for dinner, and yeah, it's the afternoon and early evening, so no one's really here. I've seen 2 people on the trail. That's great. So try to watch your background. Look for busy stuff in the background. You don't want that. Look for stuff like man-made stuff in the background. You don't want that. We're taking nature photography. You've got beautiful yellow flower. Are there a ton of yellow flowers behind it, drowning it out? Are there yellow leaves behind it, drowning it out? You know, check your background. Look at the subject and then look at your background. After you get that subject where you want it, look at the background and try to move so that you can get rid of any busyness, anything distracting out of the background. Framing. Yeah, framing is another great way to improve your pictures. You can frame your subject, which will draw the attention to it. I have used trees where the crotch in the tree will actually be where I put my subject in the middle of it. Just by changing my positioning, my angle of the subject, I can actually frame it. I've used fence posts, man-made things, I know, but I've used fence posts to frame objects. I've used grasses. I've used all sorts of things to get a frame that way. Sometimes I'll even use the lighting. I'll use a shadow. It draws the attention of the viewer in towards the subject. Trees are one of my favorite. You know, trees, I'll try to get a tree in there. Also gives you perspective. So it'll show you size. So you get that tree in the picture and it'll show you where the subject is. You know, it kind of pushes your view in towards that subject. So framing is one technique that I use quite a bit. Use an object, use trees, bushes, sometimes man-made objects. If I'm taking a picture of someone on a trail, you know, I will make sure there's lots of trees along the trail, or I'll wait for a boardwalk and I'll get a low angle so that the railings of the boardwalk are drawing the attention into the person. Especially if they're in a distance, it's almost like the railings are going in towards the person. Like it's almost like they're pointing to the person. So framing is an awesome one. Now these are some of the easy tricks that you can use for getting great photographs, getting better photographs, and it all takes practice too. Now I do want to talk about wildlife photography, because wildlife photography is a tough thing to do. And I say that because usually you can't see the wildlife. And when you do, you know, they're moving or they're too far away. So you may need a good camera, good lens in order to zoom in on this animal. So judge what you're trying to photograph. I mean, maybe it's just an incidental photograph. I mean, what I mean by that is I've done this before where I'm just hiking along the trail and it's like, oh, is that a hawk in the tree? Awesome. I want to get a picture of it. You know, it wasn't there before. I wasn't planning on going out and finding a hawk and taking a picture of a hawk. I've done that before. I'm trying to get pictures of certain animals, but I usually don't because it's so hard. It's a lot of planning. You have to kind of scout out the area days, sometimes weeks ahead of time, knowing the habit of the animal, knowing the habitat, all this stuff comes into play. And it's difficult to do. So that's why, you know, usually my wildlife photographs are incidental. But when you are photographing, you need patience. If you run after the animal trying to get over to it quickly to get that picture, it's running away. Or it feels threatened and it starts charging you. So you don't want to bait it. I've heard nightmare stories about people trying to bait animals in for that perfect picture. And I remember this one picture I saw on the internet of a little kid hand out with a bunch of food and a deer coming up to that kid. And the parents are there, you know, taking the picture, and it's like, oh my Lord. And what are you going to do when that deer, you know, bites your kid's hand, kicks your kid because it got spooked? You know, it could kill the kid. You know, I've seen people chasing bear to get a good close-up picture. What do you think that bear is going to do? Yeah, I know what it's going to do. It's going to defend its territory. Trust me, you're not going to run away from that bear. So, do not bait them in. There were stories many years ago. There was a rare, I can't even remember what type of hawk it was, but there was a rare hawk up around my area in western New York, up in the north towns, up around Niagara County, and all the birders, it was all over the internet, it was all over the birding websites, and you know, everyone knew about this bird, and everyone was going up there. It was so crowded. I didn't even go up. I wasn't going to deal with crowds. But everyone was going up there trying to see the bird, get pictures, and you know, most of them had these long lenses, and they were, you know, getting pictures from a distance, and they had the patience, but there were others who, you know, I heard some nightmare stories about them baiting. They were putting mice out. Yeah, dead mice were being put out, draw the bird in, and they were just sitting there on the ground next to the mouse, waiting for the bird to come in. It's like, yeah, just wait till that bird comes and puts its talons in your head. I don't think you will enjoy that. I hope the picture was worth it. So don't be stupid when you're doing wildlife photography, please. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to harass the bird. And that's another story. There's nests. Every year I hear about them in the spring. People want to see the baby great horned owls. They want to see, you know, the baby hawks. And so they're out there taking these pictures. All these people are around because word gets out about it. And they're just basically harassing these poor birds. It's like, let them raise their kids. That's when I find an eagle's nest, which I used to know where there was an eagle's nest. I'm sure it's still there. I just, you know, don't go out to see it anymore because I've seen it enough times. But I never tell anyone where it is, you know, because I don't want the people going and harassing it. Now, there's another one, eagle's nest, that I do tell people where it is because there's no way for them to get near the nest. They're built in a great location. You need a spotting scope to actually see the babies in the nest. But yeah, do not harass the birds, please. Do not harass the wildlife. Especially in the springtime when they're trying to raise their young, they can be protective. They're trying to raise their babies, and here they're being harassed, which could interfere with that. It could make them move to a new habitat, which is not conducive to them. And so, yeah, it also gives photographers a bad name when that happens. I've heard the birding clubs get pretty upset with some people. I've heard some photographers get upset with the birding clubs, and the birding clubs get upset with the photographers, and the nature groups are getting upset with these people. It's like everyone's getting upset with everyone because some are harassing and others are like, don't harass them. It's like, you know, you know that you just go get your picture. If there's too many people around, maybe encourage them to, you know, leave the poor bird alone, leave the poor animal alone, and then you leave it alone too. So, yeah, use common sense. That's all I'm going to say. Use common sense. Don't harass the animals. So no baiting, no harassing. Get a long lens. If you want to do nature photography, get a long lens. I know some of these cameras, my camera, I didn't spend the money for a really top-notch phone with the camera on. My wife's phone, she has an awesome camera on it, but whenever I try to use it, when we go on vacation, it's like, oh, there's something in the distance I want to picture. I'll grab her phone to get the picture, but It's like you can't hold steady enough when you're that zoomed in. It gets great pictures from a distance, but when you're zoomed in that far, it's hard to hold it steady. Sometimes it's hard to find the animal in the shot. It's like, so my suggestion, this is just my suggestion, maybe you're better at it than I am with a camera phone, but my suggestion is if you really want to get into nature photography, spend the money. Get a good digital SLR camera. My brother swears on Nikon. I like Canon. I have the Canon EOS. And get a good long lens. I mean, I don't have a really long lens. I have a 210, which gets decent pictures from a distance, but it would be nice to have an even longer lens. But honestly, as much as I do wildlife photography, it's too expensive for me to spend the money on it. So, sorry for that. I had to pause. An ambulance was going by and it was pretty noisy. But anyhow, I do want to mention another thing about taking good pictures. Using all these techniques is great, but I like a picture that tells a story. It can be several pictures. I actually have my scouts, one of the last requirements that they do on the merit badge is they have to take several pictures. Just had a beautiful cardinal go flying by, but I have them take a minimum of 5 pictures to tell a story. So they do a sequence story, but you can do that with one picture. Have your picture tell a story. I remember when I was younger, my mother was an elementary school teacher, and her one student, his father worked for the Buffalo News as a photographer. And so he would come in and take pictures of their events at school, and they're really awesome pictures. He was a really great photographer, but the one time he found out I liked doing photography, and he brought in a collection of some of his pictures from his career, his time as a photographer for the newspaper. And the pictures are just amazing, and the reason is because they told a story. I remember the one picture I saw that he had. There was basically in the picture there was a guy in the foreground leaning against an old fence post, barbed wire fence post, and he was just leaning against it. And behind him was this old burned down barn, and you could see there was some fire, equipment, on the edge, and you didn't see any fire, no fire at all. He didn't concentrate on taking a picture of that barn on fire. What he concentrated on was getting the picture of that farmer. And the face, the expression on this farmer's face, told the entire story. Told exactly how the guy felt, what was in his mind, what the sadness of losing his business, maybe some of his livestock, I don't know, was in the barn. That didn't matter. It wasn't in the picture. What mattered was how this affected this guy. And that one picture, not a lot in it. Not a lot in it. He made sure he had, some of the fire equipment blurred in the background. He made sure that barn that was, burned down was in the background. But he made sure that in perfect focus, center of attention was in the foreground. And the expression on the face, he made sure he got that face. But that told the whole story. And that's what you should try to strive for in your pictures too. And the last thing I want to mention, the last tip I have for getting those great pictures, enjoy. Enjoy yourself. Don't make it a struggle. I know I talked about getting that perfect shot, framing, getting the right angle. Don't stress over it. Okay, you've got a digital camera, you can take 1,000 pictures. It doesn't cost you any extra to develop them. Okay, so you take 1,000 pictures, you throw out most of them. Doesn't matter. Okay? So take your time, enjoy what you're doing, get a good feeling about what you're taking a picture of. And I have found that actually brings out a good picture. It really does. I know it sounds strange, but I can tell the picture that someone put a lot of effort and stress, and it's like, it just doesn't have the feeling to it. But I can also tell a picture when someone just relaxed and they took a picture because they enjoyed what they were looking at and they wanted everyone else to feel that sense of joy as well. So they made sure that they put that into that feeling. They put it into the picture. So yeah, relax, enjoy what you're doing. Just enjoy taking the pictures and practice. Go out, take a bunch of pictures. Try different angles, try different lighting. Try to doing the same shot different times of the day. So hopefully this helps you to get better pictures. I hope you enjoyed learning about it. And if you want to support the podcast, please go to the show notes. Go to my Ko-Fi page. You can make a donation there. Or once again, I mentioned this last week, the holidays are coming. Great Christmas gifts at the merch store. So go to thenaturewanderer.com/merch, MERCH, and get great sweatshirts, t-shirts, and other items that you can use as gifts, or hey, time of year where you can get yourself a gift too. So do this, and it helps to support the podcast, keeps it going. And don't forget, above all, keep exploring the nature around you. Have a great day, everyone.
Did you know that plastic is made with oil, a fossil fuel that pollutes the environment? And did you know that only about 15% of all plastic is recycled into new products? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic so that we could stop harming the planet? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic sells products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection from toothbrushes to food storage containers to drinking straws, all plastic free. And it's reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free.